Hey, I'm Andy Aledort. In this edition of In Deep, I'd like to talk about the bends, bending. Bending is an expressive thing to do on the guitar, especially when you play a guitar solo. When you bend a string, and add vibrato, these are things that bring the sound of the guitar close to the sound of the human voice. And that's why it's very emotive when you do that on the guitar in a solo, to use bending, because that what's called portamento, where the note is changing, moving up or down. Of course, you could do pre-bend, where a note can come down from a bend, go up to a bend. There's so many different combinations. So let's look at some scale positions of E minor pentatonic, and I'm going to show bending from each note in the scale, and then I'll play some solo examples using what some might think of as unusual places to bend, combined with the more normal places to do bends and vibratos. If you go in with the attitude that you can bend any note to try to be expressive, just that alone will open up doors to all kinds of sounds and possibilities for solos that you may not have thought of otherwise. So that's the premise is, well, whatever note I play in the scale, I'm going to bend it and see what happens. So I'll show you some examples of that. All right, so here's E minor pentatonic in a little combination position. All right, so normally the only notes that you can bend are notes that are fretted on the fretboard, and you wouldn't bend open strings. But you can bend open strings because you could bend behind the nut. I am Iron Man. You know, it's a great technique and you might as well use it. For example, if I played E minor pentatonic down here, Jimi Hendrix loved to bend that minor third up to a major third and vibrato it, and he would even go at that point. You're basically playing the sitar. But let's go back to just fretted notes. So when we have E minor pentatonic over there, you bend that minor third to a major third, bend it to a fourth, flat fifth, bending it to that note, and I can bend it 2 whole steps. Not that common. We go to the fourth, half step. We're going to find the case, this is the case with every note. You can bend it a half, a whole, step and a half, 2 whole steps. Depending on how light your strings on, maybe you could bend it more. These are 10, so this is a 46. Whole step bend is not too difficult. Step and a half up to a C. 2 steps up to a C sharp. So you could play. Maybe you could even get it 2.5 steps all the way up to the D. You know, why not? Go to the fifth, half step, whole step, step and a half, and maybe 2.5, all the way up to the root note. Let's continue that. We're here for D. Half step, whole step. Half step, whole step on the E. Or let's do whole step, step and a half on the E. On the G, half step. Or a whole. On the 4, half step. Whole step. On the 5, whole step. Step and a half. And be sure to listen to make sure you're bending correctly. You could fret the note and then listen. Make sure you're hitting it correctly. Here's a D again. Up whole step, E to F sharp, and to G. G here, up half step. Whole step. Step and a half. 2 steps. And those get a little tricky because it's hard to bend. Again, depends on the string gauge. This is a 13, typical 10 set. So that takes a little oomph. From the 4. Step and a half. 2 steps. From the 5, whole step. Step and a half. 2.5. Can't make it. Almost. That was 2. You could go from here and do 2. Here from D, whole step. From E, whole step. Step and a half. And of course, there's many more. So I'm going to play over a track using some of these bending techniques. All right, I started that solo here, but then I went, and then into full-on Albert King, and then move the idea around. So try the same thing, play over some different backing tracks, and try to be as expressive as you can be with bending, and you'll find all kinds of cool and new, different sounds.